I've collected the best sci-fi films I know and grouped them into 19 categories, each one based on the mood you're in. So, whether in the mood for a space epic, a romantic sci-fi to watch with a partner, or a mind-bender that twists your sense of reality, I think you'll find something you love. If you want, you can skip straight to the category that fits your mood. There are chapter markers below. Let's dive in head first. Adrenaline and action show up in a lot of sci-fi, but on nights when that's the main goal, I have to start with my all-time favorite sci-fi film, Aliens. The feeling of traveling far, far away with a squad of overconfident stereotypical space marines and a haunted, hardened Ripley, and landing in a colony surrounded by danger at every turn, it hits me every time, no matter how many times I've seen it. I love this film so much that I actually made a whole deep dive video into why it works so well, especially compared to the other entries in the series. If you want even more fast-paced intensity, jump into an endless first-person shooter-style action loop with Tom Cruise in Edge of Tomorrow. Based on the Japanese novella All You Need Is Kill, and often marketed with the tagline Live, Die, Repeat, this movie has a brilliant high-concept premise that delivers both thematic depth and a ton of adrenaline. It's a must-watch and perfect Friday night action. And yeah, I guess I'm officially a James Cameron fanboy at this point, because there is no way I'm leaving out Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Even with all the explosive action, what really makes this one unforgettable is how it explores artificial intelligence and humanity, and wraps it all in a perfectly balanced mix you can rewatch over and over. And if that's not enough, here are a few honorable mentions. Independence Day from 1996, Neil Blomkamp's District 9, Starship Troopers, only the first one, plus Looper from 2012, and Dread from the same year. Alright, whether you're watching with a significant other, or you're just in the mood for something a little softer, here are 3 great options. Her from 2013 is a thoughtful and emotional journey that blends love, loneliness, and artificial intelligence. Joaquin Phoenix is brilliant as always, and with Scarlett Johansson's voice tucked away in the little device, all you need to do is lean back and let the story unfold. It's a film full of mood and meaning. If you prefer a gentler kind of romance set in space, Passengers from 2016 might be the one. It's visually stunning, the two leads have a strong chemistry, and it's a kind of drama that unfolds slowly, among the stars. Speaking of stars, have you seen Contact from 1997 with Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey? If not, this one's going straight to the top of your watch list. It's a film that brings together technology, wonder, romance, family relationships, parallels to religion, and some seriously well-written drama. Whether you share it with someone or just watch it in your own thoughts, it's worth the time. And for honorable mentions, there is Arrival, the weird and wonderful The Lobster from 2015, the not-so-typical Jim Carrey film Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and Finch from 2021. Okay, time to leave our little planet and head out on a full-blown galactic adventure. Oh yeah, there are some obvious favorites here. First up, a no-brainer, and one of my personal favorites since I was a kid. We don't need to get into the whole prequel and sequel debate here, but Star Wars is and always will be a major favorite. I'm not that different from the rest of the galaxy, The Empire Strikes Back is my favorite of the bunch. But honestly, there's a lot to love across the whole universe, including Rogue One, which you should definitely check out if you missed it. Next up is Guardians of the Galaxy. Like Star Wars, it's part of a bigger series, and it occasionally spills into other parts of the Marvel universe. But I want to highlight the first one. It nails everything from comedy and visual effects to really strong performances. Now, I know this could spark a Star Wars versus Star Trek debate, but in my book, George Lucas's universe has always edged out just a little. Still, Star Trek has a lot to offer, and The Wrath of Khan from 1982 is a standout that's hard to forget. I could also mention other options here, like Avatar, Jupiter Ascending, and Valeria and the City of a Thousand Planets. There are definitely more films that could fit this category. Dune, for example. But this isn't meant to be a complete list, just some personal go-tos from here in the cold deck, while observing Earth from a distance. And if you got more suggestions, drop them in the comments, this is going to be fun. Some nights it's not action or adventure you need, but something that reflects what's already spinning around in your head. One that might not give you the answers, but asks the right questions. First up is Arrival from 2016. This isn't just a sci-fi about aliens, language and time. It's a film about grief, choice and understanding each other on a level we rarely see in Hollywood. If you're watching it for the first time, get ready for the final act. and if you've seen it before, then you already know why it's worth revisiting. Solaris from 2002, directed by Steven Soderbergh, might be one of the most quiet, introspective sci-fi films out there. It's poetic and deeply thoughtful, and even if very little happens on the surface, so much happens beneath it. It's a kind of film that connects you with feelings you didn't quite knew were there, and lets them speak in the silence. And finally, there is Ad Astra, a film many mistook for a space adventure when it came out. But deep down, it's really a quiet, emotional father-son story disguised as a sci-fi. With Brad Pitt in one of his most vulnerable roles, and a visual style that feels almost meditative, this one is for when you want to think, and maybe feel a little too. For honorable mentions, there is The Man Who Fell to Earth, a David Bowie classic that's strange, beautiful and quietly alienating, and I Origins, a small film with big questions about science, belief and everything in between. But if you're looking for sci-fi that actually makes you laugh without dumbing down the ideas, then the next category is exactly what you need. Sci-fi doesn't always have to be heavy or philosophical. Sometimes what you need is a movie that plays with the genre and has enough self-awareness to joke about everything we love about it. These are films that give you both laughs and laser guns, or, something along those lines. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy from 2005 is probably the most obvious place to start. Based on Douglas Adams' wild and wonderful book, it takes you on a journey through space that feels like being trapped in a silly dream game, full of high intelligence and zero logic. From the paranoid robot Marvin to the idea that the meaning of life is just 42, this film is truly one of a kind. But wait, was that actually the right question? Anyways, Men in Black from 1997 is next, a movie that proves sci-fi and buddy cop comedy are a perfect match. Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones have an iconic chemistry, and the concept that Earth is secretly full of aliens gives an extra layer of nerdy delight. Third up is Galaxy Quest, maybe the best meta sci-fi comedy ever made. You've got this group of washed up actors from a Star Trek style TV show who gets kidnapped by real aliens who think the show was a documentary. It's genuinely heartwarming and hilarious, and one of those films that sci-fi fans often end up loving way more than they expected to. For honorable mentions, there is over-the-top chaos in Tim Burton's Mars Attacks, We Come in Peace, Edgar Wright's The World's End, the full-on parody Spaceballs, and Paul, basically a road trip with a cheeky little alien in the backseat. And even though it's not straight-up comedy, Don't Look Up deserves a mention for its biting satire. Guardians of the Galaxy has already been featured in another category, but hey, we're not limited anyone to just one box here, so yeah, it definitely belongs here too. Sometimes you just want to see how bad things can get, how humanity messes it all up, and how the future might not be hopeful, but bleak and threatening. Dystopian sci-fi gives us dark, thought-provoking visions of what's ahead, and there is something strangely fascinating about how fiction reflects reality at its most disturbing. Children of Men from 2006 is the first pick here. In a world where humans have suddenly stopped having children and all hope seems completely lost, a tiny glimmer of possibility appears. This film isn't just powerful in its themes, it's also a technical masterpiece with scenes so intense and visually stunning they leave you holding your breath. It's one of the best dystopian films ever made. Next is Blade Runner, the original from 1982. A movie that sets a visual and thematic standard for how dark futures could look on film. It blends noir, neon, philosophy, and a kind of existential melancholy that makes it unlike anything else. The sequel, Blade Runner 2049, is a very different beast. Slower, more visually majestic, and almost like a piece of cinematic art, packed with quiet, haunting reflections. Third is The Road, a more grounded and brutally realistic vision of a world in decay. There's no AI or advanced tech here, just survival, love, and what it means to stay human in face of total collapse. It's grim, but deeply moving. As for honorable mentions, there is I Am Legend, great if you want a post-apocalyptic story with loneliness and a few jump scares. Snowpiercer, where all society is cramped into a never-stopping train with class divisions literally built into the structure. Elysium, which looks at inequality through a sci-fi lens, and War of the Worlds, which might start up as an alien invasion, but ends up being just as much about human panic and vulnerability. Sometimes you just want to go to space. Not necessarily for adventure, but to feel the silence, the danger, and the vast empty darkness out there. Here are 3 films that really let you feel what that's like, plus a few bonus picks at the end. Interstellar has to come first. This emotionally charged journey blends science, fiction, and a father-daughter relationship in a way that makes you both think and feel as you watch. Christopher Nolan uses visuals and sound to amplify both hope and hopelessness, and there are moments in this film that are just unforgettable. It's one you can rewatch multiple times and still come away with new thoughts. Next up is Gravity. This one's a straight-up nerve-wracker, with Sandra Bullock stranded in Earth's orbit after a catastrophic accident. It's simple in concept but incredibly effective, and a reminder of just how fragile life is when there's only a thin layer between you and the endless vacuum. And then of course there is 2001: A Space Odyssey. There's just no way to make a list like this without mentioning Kubrick's masterpiece. It's a film that asks for patience, it does not hand you anything easily, but it rewards you with a sense of awe that's hard to find anywhere else. And just to be clear, the order here doesn't mean one is better than the others. They're each powerful in completely different ways. As for honorable mentions, The Martian is clever and entertaining. Sunshine mixes intensity with beautiful visuals, Moon gives you a quiet, intimate take on space travel. And Europa Report starts out like a realistic documentary until, well, it doesn't. So tighten your helmet, check the airlock, and enjoy the silence. Some days you're just in the mood to be confused. Not in a frustrating way, but that I think I get it, wait a second kind of way. Here are 3 mind benders you won't forget anytime soon, and a few extras if your brain's still holding up afterwards. We start with Tenet. There may be no film that's left more people sitting in their theater seats with a thoughtful stare and the question, what exactly just happened? Christopher Nolan continues his obsession with time and structure, and delivered an action movie that challenges you on logic, cause and effect, and how you think about time itself. You might need the pause button or YouTube afterwards, but hey, that's half the fun. Predestination from 2014 is less known, but maybe even more mind-twisting. It's hard to talk about without spoiling too much, so I'll just say this. It takes a classic sci-fi concept and bends it in every possible and impossible direction. It also hits harder emotionally than you might expect. It's a kind of film that sneaks under your skin. Donnie Darko might be the ultimate wait what movie. It's a teen movie that's not really a teen movie. A sci-fi film that's not quite a sci-fi film. And a plot that for a lot of people pretty much requires an explanation video afterwards. But the mood, the music and the feeling it leaves you with, magical in its own strange way. Still hungry for more? Try Annihilation, both beautiful and deeply unsettling. Coherence, proof that you can do a lot with a tiny budget and a really sharp idea. Or Source Code, a tight little time loop thriller that still manages to make you care. But hey, fair warning, you might not understand everything, and that's totally fine. Artificial intelligence, a topic that feels more relevant now than ever, and one that films have explored again and again in emotional, thought-provoking and entertaining ways. Ex Machina from 2014 is pretty much the perfect small-scale sci-fi thriller. It dives deep into power, control, consciousness, and what it means to be human, all through what seems like a simple conversation between a programmer, a billionaire, and a robot. The minimalist style and confined setting makes it feel even more intense. Her, which I already mentioned in another category, absolutely belongs here too. Instead of focusing on robots with human bodies, this one's about a relationship with an operating system, and just how close, real and emotionally deep those relationships can feel, whether we're comfortable with that or not. AI Artificial Intelligence, originally started by Kubrick and finished by Spielberg, is a bigger, more epic journey, both thematically and emotionally. It's not a perfect film, but it sticks with you, and it leaves you questioning where the line really goes between artificial and real. As for honorable mentions, The Creator is a visually stunning large-scale story that hits hard on relevance. I, Robot with Will Smith leans more into action than philosophy, but still brings up many of the same questions. And Chappie from 2015 might be the weirdest, and somehow the most lovable of the bunch, with its own take on artificial consciousness and social commentary. Some nights you're not looking for something safe or predictable. You want something weird. Something that twists your brain, or at least makes you feel just a little uncomfortable. If that sounds like you, this is a category to explore. We'll start with Primer from 2004, a micro-budget film that takes time travel very seriously. No explanations, no hand-holding. Just two engineers, some home-built experiments, and a story that gets more complex by the minute. You might not understand it first time, or the second. And honestly, that's the whole point. Next is Cube, a psychological thriller set in a claustrophobic, mechanical nightmare of a labyrinth. The premise is simple. 6 strangers wake up in a room with no idea how they got there, and every room they enter could be rigged with deadly traps. It's low budget, minimal, and incredibly effective and disturbing. Time Crimes from 2007 combines time travel with Spanish thriller vibes, layering consequence upon consequence in a way that's quietly mess with your head. It's not as well known as the others in the genre, but that just makes it more satisfying if you're the kind of viewer who loves uncovering hidden gems. On the honorable side, Beyond the Black Rainbow is more of an experience than a story, like a David Lynch fever dream dipped in synth and psychedelia. Upstream Color from the same director as Primer is a film you don't explain, you just feel your way through it. And Pi by Darren Aronofsky is a mathematical paranoia at its most intense and uncompromising. Sometimes you just want to disappear for a while. You've got time, you're in the mood for something that doesn't have to be easy or difficult, just a place to be. Somewhere else. This is a category for those nights. Dune Part 1 from 2021 is exactly that. A film that feels big in every sense of the word. Grand, calm, monumental, and just stunning to look at. It takes its time, and so should you. It's the first chapter of a larger story, so if you fall for the universe, there is more waiting for you. If you want something more colorful and chaotic, The Fifth Element is always a joy. It's like opening a comic book, one with action, humor, spaceships, and a very French sense of what sci-fi can be. It's loud, creative, and nearly impossible not to smile at. And then there's The Abyss from 1989, James Cameron's underrated underwater epic. It's a mix of claustrophobia, curiosity, and a touch of something greater and unknown. It tends to fly under the radar, but it's the perfect film if you want to sink into the deep, literally, and stay there for a while. Honorable mentions: Oblivion with Tom Cruise gives you stunning landscapes, mystery, and tightly built sci-fi suspense. And The Wandering Earth from China offers huge-scale world-building, built on a premise that's so unrealistic it almost feels poetic. Earth is pushed out of the solar system in search of a new star. And honestly, why not? There are films you can watch over and over again. You know the lines, you know the twists, and still they pull you in, and sometimes you notice something you had never seen before. These are some of the best sci-fi films to return to. The Matrix from 1999 is one of those films. For me, it's one of the top 3 movies ever made in any genre. It combines a brilliant concept, stylized action, philosophical questions, and flawless execution. It's impossible to watch it without thinking about reality, free will, and the machines all around us. Want to understand more about how the Matrix story really fits together? Check out this video. It's linked in the description below. Next up, Jurassic Park from 1993. Kind of a perfect blend of a blockbuster adventure, scientific wonder, and edge-of-your-seat tension. It holds up incredibly well, and it's hard not to smile at John Williams' iconic score and the magical sense of discovery. The Terminator from 1984 may have a lower budget and a grittier style than its sequel, but the core idea and intensity still hit hard. It's the beginning of one of the most iconic sci-fi stories ever told. Honorable mentions: Back to the Future, the perfect balance of sci-fi and feel-good entertainment. Stargate gives you portals, ancient symbols, and desert sand, all wrapped in its own unique vibe. Inception flips reality upside down in layers of dreams. Blade Runner is always worth another visit. And then there's RoboCop, brutal, satirical, and unforgettable, even after many rewatches. Time travel is one of the most exciting ideas in all of sci-fi. It opens the door to big questions, tiny details, and brain-twisting loops in every direction. Here are a few of my favorite films that mess with the timeline. Back to the Future from 1985 is a classic. A perfect blend of charm, thrills, and time-traveling nonsense. Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd are irresistible, and the movie manages to be funny, dramatic, and touching, all while juggling a jumping timeline that still inspires filmmakers today. And once you've watched the first one, just keep going. The sequels are packed with imaginative twists and clever paradoxes that make the whole trilogy a joy to experience. Then we got Terminator and Terminator 2 Judgment Day. The first two entries in the franchise aren't just some of the best action films ever made, they're also two of the most efficient and influential takes on time travel in pop culture. It all starts with a simple premise: a killer robot sent back in time to change the future. But the more you watch, the more you realize how elegantly structured these films are, and how deeply they explore fate, free will, and what it means to challenge the course of history, while also delivering iconic action and unforgettable characters. 12 Monkeys from 1995 is a dark, intricate film that blends time travel with psychological thriller and a dose of apocalypse. Bruce Willis delivers one of his most layered performances, and Brad Pitt is unforgettable in a role that earned him plenty of praise. This film doesn't hand you all the answers, but if you pay attention and maybe watch it more than once, the reward is worth it. It's flown a bit under the radar compared to some better known time travel movies, but it deserves way more love. Want to go even deeper? Looper is a sleek, action-driven take on the concept. Predestination takes it to its most extreme, and the less you know going in, the better. Primer is for those who love drawing charts. Time Crimes is a low-budget experiment that absolutely nails its tight, paranoid vibe. And Deja Vu brings classic Tony Scott energy to a clever sci-fi twist. Sometimes it's just nice to be a little freaked out. Not by monsters or zombies, but by the tech we're building ourselves. Tech paranoia is all about that creeping feeling, that we might not fully understand what we're unleashing. Let's start with Black Mirror USS Callister. Yes, it's technically an episode, not a movie, but it's so good it deserves a spot here. It takes a geeky premise, a guy building his own Star Trek style universe, and twists it into something deeply unsettling and thought-provoking. This episode sums up everything Black Mirror does best: technological innovation, sharp social commentary, and stories that crawl under your skin. Ex Machina is close behind. A minimalist, aesthetic gem that traps you in a room with a manipulative AI and a protagonist you're not quite sure you can trust. It's quiet but intense, and the ending stays with you long after the credits roll. Then there's Minority Report from 2002. Sure, it's a big blockbuster, but what it says about surveillance and privacy was disturbingly accurate then and even more relevant now. With Spielberg at the helm and Tom Cruise on the run, it gives you a future where you can be arrested before committing a crime. Yeah, it's as unsettling as it sounds. For honorable mentions, Terminator 2 deserves another nod, this time for its clear warning about machines taking control. Upgrade from 2018 is a cool, underrated film that explores the line between body and tech. And iRobot gives you a more action-driven take on Asimov's eternal question: can we really control the things we create? If you ever had that strange feeling that reality might be a little suspicious, this is a category for you. The Matrix obviously has to be first. Not just because it's one of my all-time favorite films, but because it still stands as the ultimate movie about simulated reality. It's a perfect blend of action, philosophy, and mind-bending storytelling. And no matter how many times you've seen it, it always makes you ask, what if this isn't real? And if you want to go even further down that rabbit hole, I actually have a whole video about a well-known Matrix theory, and why I think it actually undermines the story. Dark City from 1998 is a darker, more gothic, and more obscure entry into the same theme. It actually came out right before The Matrix, and even though it never reached the same popularity, it has an atmosphere like no other. The city feels like a nightmare you can't wake up from, and the film explores memory, identity, and perception in a way that really sticks with you. Total Recall from 1990 is next, a classic from the era when Arnold Schwarzenegger ruled the screen. It's an intense, action-packed journey where the main character doesn't know what's real and what's been implanted in his mind. Based on a story by Philip K. Dick, it mixes high-stakes action with a constant nagging question: is this real or just a dream? And while remakes often fall short, the 2012 version of Total Recall is actually surprisingly solid. It's got a different tone and look and brings some new twists to the story. Definitely worth checking out if you enjoy this kind of theme. Honorable mentions: Existence, The 13th Floor, and The Truman Show, three very different takes on questioning reality. Ready Player One brings a more playful approach to VR and simulation. K-Pax and The Island sneaks in questions of identity and perception in their own unique ways. And of course Tron and Tron Legacy, which were way ahead of their time in exploring digital realities, glowing suits and all. Sometimes it's the quiet ones that hit the hardest. No big explosions, no endless exposition, just ideas that sneak in and stay with you. This is a category for when you want sci-fi that doesn't spell everything out, but instead invites you to think for yourself. Films that trust you to keep up and reward you for doing so. Gattaca from 1997 might be the most understated and elegant sci-fi film I know. It's about genetics and social class in a future where DNA decides everything, but it feels more like a character-driven drama than a dystopian action thriller. Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman give strong performances in a film that's both thought-provoking and visually beautiful. Ex Machina has already been mentioned, twice, but it deserves a spot here just as much as in the other categories. It's so tight and smart in both writing and direction that you almost forget how unsettling it really is. It builds on a psychological tension where you're never quite sure who is manipulating who, and it lets you discover the deeper philosophical questions all on your own. Coherence is a perfect example of how small budget and a strong concept can turn into something you'll be thinking about long after the credits roll. It looks simple at first glance, but it becomes increasingly unsettling as reality itself starts to fall apart. A great film to watch with someone you'll want to talk to afterwards. As for honorable mentions, Another Earth is a slower, almost poetic film with a premise that could have been a big sci-fi, but instead focuses on human choices and guilt. And The Vast of Night is a dark horse in the genre. A film that does a lot with very little, slowly building unease and curiosity with barely any special effects at all. If the thought of dark corridors, sweaty palms and sci-fi that crawls under your skin sounds like your thing, then this is a category for you. Alien from 1979 is one of my absolute favorites, period. Few films combine atmosphere, design and paranoia as effectively as Ridley Scott's original masterpiece. It's as much a work of art as it is a horror film, and with Sigourney Weaver in the lead, it gave us one of the most iconic characters in the genre's history. The Thing from 1982 is another classic, and maybe even a step further into full-on body horror. John Carpenter's film has become a kind of reference point for paranoia and practical effects, and it's one of those rare movies that feels dirtier and scarier each time you rewatch it. Then there's Pitch Black, which I think is a seriously underrated gem. Simple premise, low budget, but with an intensity and visual tone that still holds up. It launched Vin Diesel as an action figure and manages to blend monsters, darkness and suspense in a way that's super watchable. Other films worth checking out in this category: Pandora, Event Horizon, Under the Skin and Life. They may not all be as well known, but each offer their own version of unease. These aren't necessarily movies you watch alone with the lights off, but that's exactly why you should. There is something truly unique about animated sci-fi. Not just because anything is visually possible, but because the medium gives space for both playfulness, bold ideas and emotional depth within the same universe. Wall-E is a modern classic. It's almost unbelievable how much that little robot can say without saying much at all. The film is a touching love story, an environmental fable, and a quiet commentary on human laziness, all wrapped up in beautiful Pixar animation at its most creative. The Iron Giant from 1999 is another great example of how deeply animated sci-fi can hit emotionally. It's funny, serious, and genuinely moving, and for many people a childhood favorite that only gets better with time. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor. The Mitchells vs. Machines is maybe the most recent on the list, but it captures a lot of the same magic. Family drama, high-tech chaos, and the apocalypse, all delivered in a wild, creative style that never takes itself too seriously. It's both ridiculous and smart at the same time. In honorable mentions, the stylish and ambitious Titan AE, the surreal cult classic Fantastic Planet, and of course the groundbreaking Japanese original Ghost in the Shell from 1995. A film that inspired everything from The Matrix to today's AI debates. Sometimes it's nice to go back to where it all began. Not because everything was better back then, but because it gives you a whole new perspective of where our ideas came from, and how sci-fi has evolved over time. 2001: A Space Odyssey from 1968 isn't just a film, it's an experience. Stanley Kubrick's epic journey through space, time and consciousness has inspired generations of filmmakers, and it's still one of the most ambitious and thought-provoking sci-fi films ever made. It requires patience, but it pays you back with mood, vision and awe. Close Encounters of the Third Kind takes a different approach, but it's just as memorable. Steven Spielberg paints a portrait of human curiosity, fear and hope in the face of the unknown, and he does it with a rare warmth and emotional depth. It's one of those films that reminds you why sci-fi can be so powerful. Planet of the Apes, the original from 1968, is both thrilling and deeply satirical. It takes a simple idea, humans trapped on a strange planet, and flips everything upside down. And that ending, one of the most iconic in film history. Even with some signs of age here and there, this is still sci-fi with teeth. If you want to dig even deeper, check out The Day Earth Stood Still from 1951, an early warning cry from the atomic age. Or Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978, which uses paranoia and body swapping as social commentary. And of course, the German silent film Metropolis from 1927, a visual and thematic masterpiece that still influences sci-fi to this day. And that's it, 19 categories, over 100 films, and hopefully at least one new favorite just for you. I know how frustrating it can be to search for the right movie and come up empty. So I hope this video can be a kind of map you'll come back to next time you're ready for sci-fi night. If you've got favorites of your own that fits one of these categories, or maybe even deserve a whole new category, drop them in the comments. I love discovering films through you guys. If you enjoyed this, a thumbs up is always appreciated. It helps the algorithm understand that this video is worth showing to others. And if you're up for more, I've got some insights ready for you right here. See you next time, and until then, good luck out there, space traveler.